you won't lead my army, then you must die.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most uncanny valley CGI scenes from superhero films. We'll be getting into spoilers, so consider this your warning.
The bigger you are, the quicker you burn.
Number 30. Ghost Rider's Flaming Skull. Ghost Rider. For a character who's basically just a walking, talking, flaming skeleton, Ghost Rider doesn't look too hot in this film.
Looking for someone.
Back to hell.
It's not the worst CGI, and some wider shots look fine. But when you see him up close, you can just tell that the spirit of vengeance needs to have some more work done on him. Sure, Ghost Rider was released almost 20 years ago, but in close-ups, he looks less semi-demonic soul hunter and more boss in an old video game cutscene.
Have mercy. Sorry. All out of mercy.
Let's just hope old Johnny Blaze doesn't hunt us down for going all scorched earth here.
You're pissing me off.
Number 29. Doctor Strange's Third Eye. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi's foray into the MCU received mixed reviews, with Multiverse of Madness's heavy reliance on CGI coming under fire. Given the magical and multiversal themes, this was somewhat inevitable. The movie had an estimated 2,000 VFX shots. Not all of them looked bad, but not all of them looked good either. Arguably, the worst culprit comes at the end of the movie when Doctor Strange develops a third eye. Sure, it's brief, but all too memorable, and we see it again in the post-credits scene. It looks flat and plastered on, and bigger than his other eyes.
Not in the least.
Hopefully, you and I can agree that this looks rushed. Number 28. Everything About MODOK. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This actually raises an interesting question. Can CGI be bad if the character that it's applied to looks terrible on purpose? Yes, sorry, it's still bad.
Surprised to see me?
MODOK was never easy on the eyes or anything, but he also didn't look like a bootleg Mr. Electric. In the comics, his head looks odd but far more distorted, and in turn, horrifying.
I found your signal, Cassie. Thanks for that, by the way. Couldn't have done it without you.
But the MCU's MODOK is just a giant, poorly rendered face and nothing else. It's like they booted a picture of Corey Stoll's head into MS Paint and went a little crazy stretching him out. We don't want to burst any bubbles, but MODOK in Quantumania was rough.
Didn't expect to see your protege again after all
Holy shit, Darren. What happened to you?
Number 27. Axel's Floating Head. Thor: Love and Thunder. This CGI has gone down in history, but for all the wrong reasons. To deliver a message to Thor about a mysterious god butcher, Heimdall's son Axel appears to him as a floating face.
Can you see me?
Floating head alert.
The moment was jarring, to put it mildly. You might expect VFX like this from a low-budget fan film, but from Disney? Really?
Axel, where are you?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to use my magic eyes yet.
To make matters worse, when the movie went to digital, the new and improved version of Axel was arguably even worse. Sorry, Marvel, but maybe you should stick with more thundering gods rather than shimmering heads.
I'm scared. We all are.
Number 26. Parallax being a glorified cloud. Green Lantern. Parallax was going to be a difficult beast to tackle in CGI, but the design choices for this adaptation probably weren't the right ones. A comic-accurate giant space bug wouldn't have been great, but the weird cloud with a face that we got definitely was not an improvement. It's just this awkward clump of digitally constructed mass that looms over the entire movie like a bad omen. Or smell. Parallax looks far from the physical embodiment of fear in this film. Seriously, what is it with terrible looking floating heads in superhero movies? Like, there's gotta be a pattern here now. Number 25. Fighting Deacon Frost, Blade. This Wesley Snipes vampire hunting superhero movie is undeniably a cult classic, but it's also a product of its time. One of the final scenes where Blade battles Deacon Frost is a good example.
Hey, Blade! Let's do this.
The overly stylized sword fight sees the two whacking at each other's blades, and Frost getting sliced in half. The blood rippling out as Deacon's upper half reattaches to his lower half is so comically bad it's like we're suddenly watching a parody. CGI was still sort of in its infancy during the 90s, so we'll cut the movie a little bit of slack. But yeah, these effects have not aged well.
My turn.
Number 24. Cyborg's all-digital look, Justice League. Victor Stone had the potential to look amazing during this superhero team-up. It might have made sense, at least on paper, to incorporate CGI into how he'd appear. However, the problem is that they used too much CGI, which left him looking uncanny and just not really there in the final version.
This is amazing. This is crazy.
Oh, what, now it's crazy?
It's like he's just a face pasted onto a shiny silver mess. The way his robotic limbs appear make it painfully obvious that everything about him was added in post.
It's stronger since the interface. I can't control it.
Victor, no! Victor! Get my hand out of the lock!
A blend of practical effects and CGI could have made Cyborg look way better.
I'm not doing this on purpose.
Right, because you can't control the machine.
Number 23. Everything About Kilowog, Green Lantern. This intergalactic action movie is well known for its bad CGI, and the Green Lantern Kilowog is no exception. Not only is Kilowog stuck with that terrible all-CGI suit, his hulking design makes him stick out even more.
The human. Ain't never seen one before.
Yeah, Kilowog is a giant alien, but he doesn't look like he belongs in any natural setting, extraterrestrial or otherwise.
You want to be a lantern? You gotta commit to the core.
When you see him training Hal Jordan, for example, you can just tell that something doesn't look quite right. This is another scenario where maybe practical effects could have helped make him look a little more real.
Remember, your enemy. He's not gonna play fair.
Number 22. Tying Up the Thing, Fantastic Four. When tempers flare between Mr. Fantastic and the Thing, an all-out brawl between the two friends ensues. But Reed manages to win the fight by tying his own body around the Thing.
You stay out of this, Susie!
Stop it or I will.
Get off me, rubber boy!
It's a surprisingly tense scene with some real dramatic weight to it. But unfortunately, the CGI involved here really undercuts the emotion. We want to feel bad for the Thing, but the cartoonish display is distracting. In close-ups, Reed's head just looks like it's floating. Calling this CGI good would be quite a stretch.
Good thing you're flexible enough to watch your own back.
Number 21. The Multiversal Cameos, The Flash. With the use of a chrono bowl, Barry Allen is able to peer into different points of time, but things get complicated when he battles a dark variant of himself. Throughout all the chrono bowl chaos, we get glimpses of other heroes from the multiverse. Really bad glimpses. Up until now, the CGI was already pretty dicey, but this brought it down to a new low. Further complicating things was how the film digitally resurrected several dead characters for soulless cameos. So not only are the CGI effects really bad, they're downright disrespectful.
Look at what's happening. These worlds.
Director Andy Muschietti tried to defend the CGI, but the damage had already been done.
You have to stop.
It stops when they fixed it!
Number 20. Pipe organ fight. Daredevil.
You. Let's play.
We wanted to excuse some of the shoddy CGI of Daredevil because it was released in 2003. However, when you consider that the excellent visuals of Jurassic Park were released 10 years earlier, a few special effects from this superhero film become inexcusable. Daredevil's cinematic and awe-inducing climactic fight turns into laughable nonsense thanks to truly atrocious CGI. While computer-generating humans convincingly is still hard to do today, it really didn't work in 2003. Both Daredevil and Bullseye look like rubbery blocks. There's also a very clear difference between the live-action actors and the CGI. While we should have been cheering for Daredevil to win, we ended up rooting for this fight scene to end.
Man without fear. Looks like I found something you're afraid of.
Number 19. 7 Deadly Sins. Shazam.
Oh, Reed. You can have him.
No.
Shazam's first solo outing is filled with lots of humor and some great character work, so we were excited to meet the sinister 7 Deadly Sins. Unfortunately, these antagonists are largely let down by their derivative design. Since they are little more than brownish-gray monsters with red eyes, they're extremely boring to look at. The CGI used to render them isn't bad, when the monsters are the only things on screen. But when the Sins attack humans, the attacks themselves don't look that threatening.
Help! Somebody! Help me!
You can't go crying to other people all the time.
Our brains can tell that these actors are really fighting nothing. Although the arrival of the Sins should have made for a compelling finale, they were let down by uninspired creature designs.
What do you got? Well, that's terrifying.
Number 18. Black Panther vs. Killmonger. Black Panther.
What's up? I never yielded!
While the MCU has given us awe-inspiring CGI, they're also guilty of a few dips of visual quality. One of the biggest offenders is the big clash between Black Panther and Killmonger. While the daylight section of the battle is quite epic in scope, things devolve quickly when Black Panther and Killmonger fall inside of the vibranium mine. The surrounding environment, obviously digital characters, and unnatural movements take a lot of bite out of their emotional bout.
Nah, I learned from my enemies. Beat them at their own game. You have become that.
Sections of the fight look more like a video game cutscene than a tentpole Marvel film. Even Chadwick Boseman's and Michael B. Jordan's floating heads can't help make this final confrontation feel more real.
Maybe we can still heal you. What?
Number 17. Steppenwolf. Justice League.
You were born of her. A creature of chaos.
Not how I see it.
Give it time.
One of 2017's Justice League biggest special effects missteps revolved around the title villain Steppenwolf. Although this entirely CG creation relied on motion capture from actor Ciarán Hinds, nothing about the antagonist felt remotely real. Steppenwolf doesn't carry a sense of weight, boasts a drab design, and his mouth doesn't always seem to line up with his dialogue.
Millennia in exile, searching. At last, you call me home.
Whenever he stands next to a live-action actor, we're instantly taken out of the scene. Multiple reports suggest that the post-production process for this 2017 movie was very rushed. This could explain how a movie that cost millions to make had Steppenwolf look so awful.
You will join my legion, and you will know the righteousness of power. You will love me.
Number 16. The Spotlight Fight. Blade 2.
Motion sensors, zone 3, gentlemen.
Human.
Body temperature 50.
As we stated before, digitally rendering human beings is difficult. A minor detail can make a scene unbelievable in an instant. Audiences experienced this phenomenon when enemies stormed Blade's compound. Although we might have accepted him doing battle in front of an inexplicably large wall of spotlights, the movements push us past our breaking point. Despite the interesting choreography, the uncanny physical moves look absurd.
Misa!
This scene gets even worse when it cuts between CGI and live-action stunts. It's a shame that actual stunt work was ruined by digital effects that absolutely bite.
You have been our most feared enemy. But now there's something else loose on the streets. Something worse than you.
Number 15. Doomsday, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Born to destroy you. Your Doomsday.
What should have been an epic clash of heroes was criticized for being overlong, overwritten, and overly CG'd. Doomsday perfectly represents all of those problems at once. After the heroes confront each other and Lex Luthor, Doomsday comes crawling into life at the last second. English actor Robin Atkin Downes performed the motion capture and voice work for this abomination. The design itself of this massive and vaguely humanoid monster is horrifically boring.
Why did you bring him back to the city?
The port is abandoned. There's a weapon here that can kill it.
If you asked someone watching the film live to name one of Doomsday's distinguishing characteristics, they'd still struggle to pick something out. This middle-of-the-road rendering wouldn't have been so bad if its appearance didn't extend the movie. The bad CGI truly spelled doom for an already divisive story.
This thing is from another world. My world.
I've killed things from other worlds before.
Number 14. Tattoo's Wolf, Elektra.
She's down the street, 3 blocks over in the parking lot.
We need to kill the Gaijin assassin first.
Few movie fans were pining for an Elektra spin-off from Ben Affleck's lackluster Daredevil outing. Unfortunately, this heroine's horrible-looking tale still arrived in cinemas. One of Elektra's lowest points came courtesy of a villain with the fantastic name of Tattoo. The thought of an antagonist that sports ink that can come to life sounds awesome, but our enthusiasm faded when a wolf appeared out of Tattoo's belly. Not only does the villain's skin look like cheap plastic, but the animal's actual appearance is horribly edited. It's so choppy that it feels like the filmmakers were ashamed to show the wolf for too long. The terrible visual effects turned this tattoo into ink we'd definitely get removed.
Nice trick. I've seen it before.
Number 13. Incubus, Suicide Squad.
Oh, wow.
The original concept for Incubus was quite something. It was visually striking and instantly memorable, while inspiring an otherworldly type of fear. What we got instead was this horrific creation that looked little more than a tall, computer-generated actor in a crappy costume. The physical design is silly, and the CGI is equally underwhelming.
It's gonna be bad! We should run.
His very fake-looking human face made it impossible to take anything coming out of his mouth seriously. Ironically enough, the production of 2016's Suicide Squad won an Oscar for makeup work on other villains. Maybe sending an actor to the makeup department and putting them on stilts would have been better than the final Incubus effects.
Get the chingaste away.
Number 12. CGI Hell, Spawn. Spawn was huge in the 1990s. Todd McFarlane's uniquely dark and gritty comics reeled in a sizable readership, with the first issue selling 1.7 million copies. So imagine the anticipation when an animated series and live-action film were announced.
I feel much better now.
The animated series was well received. The movie? Yeah, not so much. One of the main targets of criticism was the CGI. Fans were divided over the cape, which, to be fair, was reportedly very difficult to animate. But it was Malebolgia who really stole the show, and not in a good way. The Lord of Hell burns our eyes just to look at. So perhaps in a way that's a success. If you can't animate something, just don't show it. Find a creative solution.
Never bring me Spawn's head.
Number 11. Gamma Dogs, Hulk.
Get her!
Long before the Avengers redeemed the Hulk, Eric Bana starred in an origin film with notably poor special effects. While the Hulk himself looks quite goofy in places, he's nothing compared to the nightmarish monstrosities that are the Gamma Dogs. The canines were once David Banner's pets, but thanks to a little of Hulk's DNA, the creatures become mutated, violent, and extremely rough to look at. Nothing about the protracted fight sequence between the Hulk and the evil canines works. The creatures look silly, the Hulk looks silly, and it just reeks of poor early 2000s CGI. Scenes like this keep Ang Lee's Hulk firmly in the doghouse.
He sent his dogs, didn't he?
Number 10. Bruce in the Hulkbuster, Avengers Infinity War.
You guys are so screwed now!
For the most part, Avengers Infinity War looks spectacular, and it better considering the $400 million budget. But there's one glaring visual flaw, and that's Mark Ruffalo's head inside the Hulkbuster.
This is gonna be like New York, pal. This suit's already kicked the crap out of the Hulk.
Pretty much every single shot of Bruce's head inside the Hulkbuster needs work, and it has a certain floaty quality to it that is never made convincing.
Oh, screw you, you big green asshole! I'll do it myself! Come on!
It almost looks like Ruffalo's head is photoshopped onto the Hulkbuster itself, and the results are borderline laughable. It stands out in a movie filled with otherwise great CGI, and is a blemish on an otherwise excellent movie. Number 9. Not so fantastic stretching, Fantastic Four.
That's gross.
Mid-2000s Marvel was certainly not the Marvel we know and love today. Case in point, the 2005 adaptation of Fantastic Four. Produced by Marvel Enterprises, as it was then known, Fantastic Four starred Ioan Gruffudd as Mr. Fantastic. The founding member of the Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic has the bizarre ability to stretch his body and elongate his limbs. It looks a little goofy on the page, and it looks even goofier in live action. The CGI of Gruffudd's elongated limbs looks more like something out of a cheap television show rather than a $100 million blockbuster. Fantastic Four isn't a good movie, and the CGI certainly doesn't help.
Oh my god, Reed, what did you do?
I can make it work.
No!
Number 8. Ruined Rhino, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is often considered the weakest Spider-Man movie, and that's saying something considering the legacy of Spider-Man 3. A part of its negative reputation stems from the bland and visually embarrassing villains Electro and Rhino.
And everyone will be able to see me for who I truly am.
And who are you?
Don't you know? I'm Electro.
Both villains are plagued with poor CGI work, with Rhino in particular suffering from Bruce Banner's floating head syndrome.
On behalf of the fine people in New York City and real rhinos everywhere, I ask you to put your mechanized paws in the air.
Never!
I crush so I kill you. I destroy you.
Much like Bruce Banner, it consistently looks like Rhino's head is floating in his mech suit, and it completely eliminates the sense of danger and menace that a good superhero antagonist should always embody. Paul Giamatti is a great actor, but he was utterly wasted as Rhino. Number 7. Hellboy vs. Giants, Hellboy.
Wait a minute. I thought there was supposed to be 3.
There's something to be said when the Hellboy from 2004 often looks better than the Hellboy from 2019. Hellboy fights 3 giants at the beginning of the film, and while this should have made for an epic sequence, the CGI ruins any semblance of excitement. The mixing of practical effects and CGI was not a good decision, as the CGI is incredibly easy to pinpoint amidst the real footage. Perhaps the worst offender is Hellboy's stone fist. In one particular instance, Hellboy is knocked to the ground and his stone fist is clearly visible on his right hand. After he dodges a giant's blade, the stone fist is suddenly on his left hand. It's stuff like this that makes Hellboy seem unfinished.
Yeah, just you and me now, princess!
Number 6. Super Hyde, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Not the whole thing.
Talk about wasted potential. We love the concept of classic literary characters fighting evil in Victorian Europe. However, this 2003 movie adaptation completely bungled it, and is even responsible for bringing about the end of Sean Connery's film career.
God, I hate getting older.
The climax of the film sees Mr. Hyde and Captain Nemo fighting some type of mutant Hyde. And the mutant Hyde looks, well, like this.
What is that thing? It's me on a bad day.
We can't fault the work too much, as the quality of early 2000s CGI is usually spotty even on the best of days. But this pretty much ruins what could have been a really exciting sequence. Number 5. Blade's Eyes, Blade Trinity. The third entry in the Blade series was widely maligned, and while we're not blaming the CGI eyes in particular, they're indicative of a bigger problem.
Why do you do that?
Because there's something bad inside of me. This keeps it from getting out.
In the movie's final scene, Blade is lying on a slab and about to be cut open when he suddenly opens his eyes and attacks. If the sequence looks a little off, it's because the eyes have actually been computer generated onto Wesley Snipes' face. The story goes that Snipes and director David S. Goyer did not get along, and while filming this climactic scene, Snipes refused to open his eyes, seemingly just to spite and frustrate Goyer. Goyer essentially said fine, whatever, and decided to go with CG eyes instead.
Because he was a hybrid, his heart never stopped beating. It simply slowed down. And so he slept, waiting for the moment when he could walk the earth again.
Number 4. Leaping Catwoman, Catwoman.
You boys thought you could come in here and steal all these beautiful things? What a perfect idea.
Not so hot take, Catwoman isn't just one of the worst superhero films ever made, it's one of the worst films ever made, period. Well, it is according to many critics anyway. The infamous basketball scene has been well and truly covered, and many consider it the weakest scene in the whole movie. But may we also suggest all the leaping around, including the robbery scene? This sequence features some truly uninspired CGI, with Catwoman's wall jumping looking like something out of a PS2 game. This movie reportedly had a budget of $100 million, and it's scenes like this that make us wonder where the money went. Number 3. The Suit, Green Lantern. Ryan Reynolds has enjoyed one of the biggest career revivals in movie history. It was looking quite dour for a minute there, and that minute encompassed the now notorious Green Lantern. For some bizarre reason, the team behind Green Lantern decided to ditch the traditional costume in favor of a CGI suit. And despite hiring Academy Award-winning costume designer Nyla Dixon, we got this as a result.
Ah, green! Wow. I know, right?
The CGI suit makes Hal look otherworldly. Not in a good way, but he looks like a video game character kind of way. They couldn't even bother making a good green eye mask, and the CGI clashes with Reynolds' very real face.
What is this? Why is your skin green? Why are you glowing? What the hell is with that mask?
Came with the outfit.
Number 2. Superman's Lip, Justice League. Rather than being the DCEU's magnum opus, Justice League was instead a calamity that became more famous for its CGI than anything else. Despite a $300 million price tag, Justice League isn't up to snuff, with Steppenwolf being a particularly egregious example, as we've already mentioned.
Primitive beings.
But it's Superman's lip that always incites mockery.
When you're dying,
And I get the exclusive.
Yes, ma'am.
As most people know by now, Henry Cavill was sporting a mustache from Mission Impossible Fallout and couldn't shave it for the Justice League reshoots, so Paramount executives decided to digitally erase it in post. It was the worst decision they could have possibly made, and the results look like a goofy Snapchat filter.
How many people that you saved have you saved? Wait, never mind. Does your thing really stand for hope?
Yes.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Wolverine's Claws. X-Men Origins Wolverine. Even the most diehard superhero fans admit that X-Men Origins Wolverine leaves a lot to be desired, particularly the visual effects.
Wait, is that you? Your striker finally figured out how to shut you up.
Wolverine's computer-generated adamantium claws earned widespread derision from fans and critics alike. Most people point to the bathroom scene as the culprit, as the CGI on display here is like something we would have seen back in 1992. It doesn't blend with Hugh Jackman's fists at all, and the texturing is so bland and simple that it looks crudely photoshopped. It's one of the most infamous scenes in superhero movie history, and for good reason.
I swear I'm gonna pay for it.
Are there any horrific CGI moments we missed? Let us know in the comments.
And hold out your hand. Okay, good. Now focus. Close your eyes.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.